Hey guys, Chauncey Phillips here with my January 23rd DVD update. I talk about all the DVDs and Blu-rays I've gotten in the last 2 weeks or so. Like I say, guys, if you enjoy these updates, definitely give this video a thumbs up. Leave me comments below what you guys thought, the titles I checked out, and any titles coming up that you guys would like to interview for future updates. Now, the first one I got from Shout Factory Scream Factory line. This is a really cool, kind of quirky, out there, weird movie I had never heard of in my life called Sonny Boy, starring David Carradine. And it's basically, though, about the movie, David Carradine plays a transgendered woman who's like married to her boyfriend in the movie, and they kind of have this like scheme of going around robbing people, stealing things, like buying old crap and junk that they're selling out in the middle of the desert. And they're kind of like in the town, like the cops all work with them and kind of let things slide with them. Like everyone's kind of like under their thumb of these kind of like gangsters type of like gangster activity, all this weird stuff they're doing out there. And one of the people who works for them is Brad Dourif, who goes around stealing cars and robbing people and stealing their money, stealing rings, all kinds of stuff. And the one time he ends up stealing this car, killing the owners. In the back of the car is this kid, and basically, though, David Carradine's character sees this baby and wants this kid and wants to raise this kid and says, "This is my kid." The boyfriend doesn't like the idea at all. But David Carradine's not going to take no for an answer and just wants to keep this kid. So basically what ends up happening is the boyfriend ends up cutting the kid's tongue out and chaining him up for his whole life pretty much. And there's all these crazy narrations of the kid talking, going, "I remember the time my father removed my tongue. That was a horrible time. That was the time when my life changed." It's like these really strange narrations that the kid has that are really out there and weird. Essentially, though, it cuts to, throughout the time of the kid having these birthdays and he's chained up and all the kind of scheming activities that are going on throughout the years, till eventually, though, the kid is grown up and it's kind of, he's an adult and he's still chained up in there. He's very depressed and, he ends up seeing this one girl the one night and, he kind of really wants to get out and be free. And it's kind of like, is he going to be? Is he going to be free? Is he going to find a way to get out of this life? Is he going to find a way to ever speak again? Because he can't really explain to anyone what has happened to him. But it was a really sad movie, too. There was some really sad stuff in this movie, but it also has like a quirky kind of vibe to it. Very, very out there, strange movie. Good transfer. This has a commentary on here with the director and the commentary of the writer, theatrical trailer. But if you want to see a movie I feel like not a lot of people have seen, I would definitely recommend this. The next one from Shout Factory as well is a James Spader film called Jack's Back. Another one that I had never seen before. It's essentially Jack the Ripper has kind of been reborn again. And Jack the Ripper is going around killing all these women around the town, and James Spader's character works at this hospital, kind of like a clinic, and one of the people who comes in for an abortion, he ended up knowing this woman, but one of the other doctors there kind of overheard it, and he goes back to her house and says, "Here, give her the abortion at the house for like a cut rate because she can't afford it." And James Spader ends up going to her house that night to check on her and ends up finding that doctor there, basically standing over the woman's dead body. James Spader's character ends up chasing the guy back to the clinic, and then he ends up getting killed and hung to death by, the doctor, who you believe may be this Jack the Ripper character. And of course, then right afterwards, you see James Spader wake up like it was a dream, but no, it was not him. It was James Spader's twin brother, and his twin brother kind of witnessed the murder. In the murder, he saw the guy's face who did it. He ends up going to the cops and kind of trying to talk to place where he worked. His brother worked at the clinic. Of course, so him telling these cops all these details about what he saw, they're kind of looking at him really weird, like, how do you know this? And kind of he basically becomes the suspect, and they're kind of following him and questioning him and making it like he had something to do with it. That's essentially what it is kind of looking at him like he did something and maybe he's the one, but involved in actually killing his brother, and they're also following him around, like I said. And that's essentially what it is. I actually thought it was pretty cool, different movie. It has on here, though, a high definition transfer from the original negative, audio commentary, interviews with the director, producer, one of the actresses and director of photography. But a pretty cool, seldom seen one I would definitely recommend checking out. The next one from Lionsgate is another one that I was really interested in checking out. It stars Vin Diesel, Elijah Wood. The one actress in this was from that movie, The Honeymoon, which was a pretty cool movie. This one's called The Last Witch Hunter. And it's basically Vin Diesel, who is, in the beginning of the movie, he's like with a group of all these hunters, 800 years or so back, going around, and he kind of goes and hunts and kills witches. And that's what it is. It's a whole group that kind of kills all the evil witches. and the one witch he goes to kill ends up putting this curse on him, and basically as he's killing this witch, and the witch says to him, "You're going to live forever, you're never going to die." So then it cuts to modern time, like now, after 800 years, Vin Diesel is still kind of going around and hunting down witches that are doing bad things to a degree, but he's not allowed to kill them anymore. He's also working with Michael Caine, who's a priest, and they kind of work together to find these people who are bad, and instead of killing them, they kind of put them into this kind of giant witch jail kind of thing in this tree, and kind of curse them into the place. Of course, though, Michael Caine's character is getting ready to retire. The night he ends up running to retire, he ends up getting killed and found dead, and he gets found dead by Elijah Wood's character, who is going to basically be the replacement priest who's going to work with Vin Diesel's character to continue on the journey of, hunting these witches and, finding all the bad ones. And then Vin Diesel, though, is, convinced that somebody has killed Michael Caine, because it was made to look like an accident. Of course, it wasn't. And they end up kind of going on this journey to try and figure out who it was that killed him. And then, of course, it deals with all these other problems. And he also ends up meeting this other woman who's a witch, who ends up having to help him try and find the killers. And it's, the person who's killing them, and what is going on with this thing. And there's all these kind of inside things going on. I actually thought it was pretty cool. There were some really pretty cool sequences in this movie. Some pretty well done effects on some of the creatures and stuff like that. Kind of old school kind of creature makeups on some of like the witches and stuff like that. Mixed with modern CGI stuff, but though some of the witch stuff was actually pretty cool. I actually, like I said, I thought this was pretty good. I like this too because it was like the first Elijah Wood movie I've seen in a long time. It was like a bigger, like theatrical movie. Like I love his like indie kind of stuff as well, but this was definitely cool to see him in a bigger movie again. And always love Vin Diesel. So if you're a fan of Vin Diesel and Elijah Wood too, definitely check this out. A lot cooler than I thought it was going to be. The next one from Sony, and this is one, that I was really excited to see this when it first came out. When I first heard they were going to be doing this, I've always been a fan of the books as a kid, followed the show, the TV series as a kid as well, and, have all the DVDs of it. And still, hopefully down the line, too, they release in the U.S. There's a lot that haven't come out, like The Haunted Mask, the first one, and a number of them. So hopefully they can, put them out. And, I was kind of hoping they were going to put some on the disc here, but I don't know if I don't think it's the same company that owns them, so I don't think they could. But this movie is, Jack Black and Goosebumps, the Goosebumps film. And it's basically, though, about this, this kid that moves in next door to basically R.L. Stine, and he basically starts to like R.L. Stine's daughter, and they become friends and things like that. And immediately R.L. Stine's like, "You can't see her, don't get near her, leave her alone, don't talk to us." And he's really kind of weird and everything like that. Of course, though, the one night he ends up, when R.L. Stine's character Jack Black is out of the house, the kid ends up going in there, and it's with his friend as well. And something ends up happening, and the books end up falling over, and the one book falls over, and then Slappy, the ventriloquist dummy, ends up opening them all up and letting out all the creatures from the books. And then it's kind of a huge nightmare of them having to try and, along with Jack Black's character, R.L. Stine, like I said, going around and trying to stop all the monsters and get them all back into the books. But it's a huge nightmare because the Slappy is burning the books, and they don't know how they're going to get these creatures back, and they're running havoc around the whole town. Things are getting all screwed up. But, that's essentially what it is. But a really fun movie. It's still, and to me, it has the same vibe as the show, but bigger budget, though, of course, and bigger budget than the other movies that they've produced as well. Some of the other spin-off kind of Goosebumps things. Has on here, though, a bunch of features in here. Alternate opening, alternate ending, deleted scenes, cast blooper reel, a whole bunch of different stuff on here. Definitely worth checking out, especially if you're a fan of the Goosebumps books and the show. The next one from Sony as well is Grandma, which is one I really like. Lily Tomlin was actually up for a Golden Globe nomination for this one. It's basically about Lily Tomlin's granddaughter who's gotten pregnant, doesn't know what she wants to do. She wants to have an abortion, but she has no money, doesn't want to go to her mother because she knows her mother's going to freak out if she finds out about this. So she ends up going to Lily Tomlin and kind of talking to her and saying, can you help me with this? And, of course, Lily Tomlin's character is kind of like living has no really bills in her life, and she doesn't really have any money. So she kind of has everything paid off. She only has like a certain amount of money she has a month. So it's kind of like this whole to-do with them kind of going out, trying to figure out how they're going to get the money, like going around to different people, and it's kind of the whole day of trying to get this money because she has this appointment for this abortion at a certain time. He has to get the exact amount of money in this exact amount of time to the place, and that's pretty much what it is. And it's kind of all the different, incidences and situations they get into along the way of trying to get this money, and if they do or they do not get the money. Sam Elliott's in this movie. Judy Greer is in this movie. I don't know. I really like this. Like, I always have been a fan of Lily Tomlin. One of my favorite things she was in, and she's in tons of stuff, but I always think of her from Krippendorf's Tribes. That's one of my favorite movies, at least one of those movies that I watch a million times. But this has on here a commentary with Lily Tomlin, Sam Elliott, Judy Garner, and the director Paul Weitz, and a Q&A. But really, really great movie. Definitely a must-see movie. The next one, and this one is pretty cool on the back, because they sent me a link to this to watch this a number of months back, and they asked for a quote, and I actually have a quote on the back of this. You can see it right there, and it's me, and it says, "The smartest, most complex home invasion film in years, Sean C. Phillips, Cool Duder." So I thought that was so cool to actually get like a quote on a thing like this. The only other time I had a quote on a DVD was for Death by Temptation, the Troma release. But this movie is called Home Invasion. Stars Natasha Hendricks from, who's best known for the Species films, and, Jason Patric and Scott Adkins. And it's basically, though, about, this woman whose house has ended up getting broken into. Her friend ends up getting killed out front, and you see these kind of home invaders kind of knocking on the door, trying to get into it, and she basically is on the phone with the security company, and, played by Jason Patric. And Jason Patric, they have this, like, alternate, like, extreme home security system. They have cameras all throughout the house, all around the sides of the house, everywhere. But these home invaders have pretty much, she tries to call the police, they've kind of, hacked into her phone, so they're actually talking to her, the woman who's one of the people who's involved in breaking into the house. She doesn't really even get in contact with the police, so she's talking to Jason Patric, who, is the security guy, and he's kind of guiding her around and kind of telling her where to go, to hide around from these home invaders, and, try and keep her and her son safe, because, she's basically recently gotten divorced from her husband, so you're kind of wondering, are these home invaders there because of the husband? You don't really know. It's kind of one of those things you're trying to figure out why they're there, and if she's going to, basically be able to hide out and survive away from these people and kind of be able to be guided around. Like I said, I thought it was a very cool movie, and I like those kind of things when it's kind of somebody on the inside kind of telling them what to do and stuff like that. So this one's Home Invasion, like I said, too. Definitely check it out, too, to see my quote on the back, which I thought was so cool. And the next one from Disney, and this is the second release of this. The last one came, I think, in 2009, and then was, in the vault and been out of print for a long time. It was like really expensive, and this is, Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs, and this is from the Signature series collection. So this is like the brand new Signature series one. I think they're going to be doing some other ones from this series, as far as I know. This is the classic series, thing about, story. This was actually one of the first, this was actually the first Disney animated feature film that they ever did, and it's basically like, if this wasn't a success and they weren't able to pull this off, we wouldn't have Disney World, we wouldn't have Disneyland, we wouldn't have anything else, because then it would have totally failed, and that was, there would be no Disney like it is today if this wasn't a success and didn't, kind of like really started the whole thing with animated features. And it was extremely well done. The thing, too, with it, like I always say, too, with Disney stuff, when it comes to them cleaning these up, it's like they feel like new. They do such an amazing job cleaning up the transfers on these. But if you don't know the series, it's basically, though, about the, the evil queen who kind of talks in the mirror saying, who's the fairest of them all? And, of course, the mirror says Snow White, not her. So she basically has a vendetta against Snow White, and she hires, the one huntsman to end up going to kill Snow White. Of course, he can't do it. So Snow White ends up running off into the woods and hiding and, living out there with the Seven Dwarfs. And it also involves the apple and what the apple, I don't want to ruin everything, because, like, you know it, but I don't really want to ruin the story. But it has on here, though, brand new features on here, in Walt's words, hear him talking about an audio track, talking about, the Snow White character and things like that. And then iconography, talking about, the film influences, like basically the Snow White character, how it influenced pop culture and things like that. And then Disney animation, modern day Disney artists they designed Snow White and kind of like now, and how kind of things like that. Also has on here facts about it, alternate sequences, and much more. So a bunch of different stuff on this. Like I said, too, it's really cool that it's finally back in print now, because like I said, Disney stuff like goes in the vault for like I'm sure this one will be in the vault in a couple of years as well. The next one from Disney as well is the new Steven Spielberg film, Bridge of Spies, starring Tom Hanks. This is, all in a true story it's basically, though, to try and explain this the best that I can. It's a someone who is believed to be a Soviet spy with Russia ends up being arrested, and they want him to have a fair trial, so they end up having Tom Hanks's character basically defend him, but it's kind of this whole awkward thing with him defending him because it's like people are going to look at him like he's kind of supporting communists and the Russians, and there's a whole lot of that stuff going on at the time. So it's kind of like he doesn't know if he wants to do this, but he's kind of stuck doing this. At the same time, a pilot, a U.S. pilot ends up getting shot down in Russia, and then he ends up getting arrested, so Tom Hanks kind of wants to help that guy as well. So it's kind of this thing about if he can help the one, then maybe he can find a way to get the other guy released. So that's essentially what the plot of it is. Like I said, it's directed by Steven Spielberg. Really, really well-made movie. Definitely a dialogue, kind of like slow burn type film. But it's, if you're interested in this kind of film, I would definitely say worth checking out for sure if you're interested in this kind of subject matter. It has on here a bunch of different features on the making of the movie. Looking back on, the making of the crash scene that was in the movie. But like I said, very, very well acted. Especially too, Steven Spielberg, everything that he's done has always been good. The next one from Universal. This movie had a lot of negativity. And it wasn't a great movie or anything like that, but I liked it though. I really did. I saw this in theaters as well, and I legitimately did like this movie. The thing is though, I didn't watch the show, so I don't know anything about the show, the cartoon, so I can't really relate to that. So I guess maybe if I saw that, maybe I'd be like, oh, they changed this, because I know they changed stuff. I don't even know what they changed though. But this is, Jem and the Holograms, and like I said, I think it's one of those movies, too, a lot of people are going to go, oh, I heard it was bad, I'm not going to watch it. I think it's worth checking out. Like I said, I legitimately like this. I saw this in theaters, really wanted to see this again. The movie's basically, though, about the one girl who ends up, posting a video online on YouTube, and she kind of becomes a sensation. She's with this band, but she kind of put her solo video up online of her singing, and it becomes a huge sensation. And then Juliette Lewis' character, who works at this huge record studio, kind of sees it and then wants to kind of bring her in to kind of try and put together this group. But of course, though, she doesn't like the band and kind of wants her to do her own thing. And it's kind of about her trying to figure out what she's going to do and how she's going to deal with the pressure of, what she's saying, and she's going to, kind of ditch her, her friends and kind of do what she says and kind of change everything that she believes in music-wise. And they kind of cut in with the movie YouTube videos and stuff like that, like people drumming and things that people doing their own kind of music, kind of like during tense scenes and stuff like that. Also, though, that has a big plot too of this robot, though, that the father created. And they're also in Hollywood trying to find the pieces to kind of get this robot working. Like I said, though, it kind of was reminding me, too, of what, if they turned the Jetsons into real life, it might be like. First, I don't know why it was giving that vibe. And it was nothing futuristic, but it was almost like if they made the Jetsons into a real life movie, it would kind of be like this. But it has on here deleted scenes, a gag reel, featurette and a commentary with the director. But to be honest with you, seriously, give this a chance. At least, rent it. Because like I said, I legitimately kind of like this. Like I said, I know it really wasn't great, but I really did like things about this. The next one from Paramount is the new Paranormal Activity film, Paranormal Activity, The Ghost Dimensions. And this has the new unrated cut, which is, I think, a couple minutes longer. Yeah, the one cut is, 87 minutes. And then the new one is, so it's 10 minutes longer. But this is basically, though, you see now the ghosts. Because in this house, they end up finding this, really weird camera. These people that move in find this camera in the attic. It's this really strange, kind of, big, kind of looks like an old VHS kind of camera. But it has all these different buttons on it and these weird elements to it. And the guy's, filming with it, and he's seeing all these kind of, weird little floaty things around and stuff like that in the house. Because also in 3D. I don't know if there's a 3D edition of this released on DVD or Blu-ray or not. On Blu-ray or not. But I saw it in theaters in 3D. But it's basically, it's these little dots and these weird things, and then you start seeing spirits and these weird stuff going on. And then he kind of has discovered these tapes in the house, and in the tapes are like the kids and stuff from the past movies, and they're talking to them, going, "Oh, I see them." And they're looking at me, watching. And it's really strange. It's because they see what the guy's watching, and they're kind of referencing it on tapes that were from the 80s. It's a kind of a trippy, kind of weird movie. It wasn't the greatest of all the Paranormal Activity movies, but I did like a lot of this. Like I said, I've always liked these Paranormal Activity movies. I think this is one of the, not the weakest ones in some ways, but it's still cool, and I believe from what they said, this is going to be the last ever Paranormal Activity. At least from what I've heard, this is the end. But it's one of those kind of things, though. I feel like they could probably like reinvent it or do something in a different way, or like another kind of spin-off kind of movie, because this one's definitely a more connecting one than the last movie, which I did like as well. Has on here, though, like I said, the theatrical version, the unrated version with an alternate ending, and then lost footage as well. Next one, this is a really cool set. This is from Arrow. This is the UK one, so this is the Region B release. Like I said, I finally have a Region B player, so I can finally watch this stuff. And the layout on this is really, really nice. And this is the Hellraiser collection with Hellraiser 1, 2, and 3. And basically, I'll show you guys a little look inside of these. There's the first one in here, Clive Barker's Hellraiser. Now, all of these have brand new 2K transfers on them and also have new features on here, a new making of and a number of different interviews on the film. The first one has a thing in here which is pretty cool, talking about this score. And I never knew about this, that they originally had this different kind of score that they were going to be doing. This one band called, I think it was Coil, was going to be doing the music for it. And then, Clive Barker really wanted them to do it. But then when the studio kind of came in and gave them more money, they wanted to make these changes to it, and didn't end up using it. Also has on here, the original covers below, the original, really known, theatrical cover and really, the DVDs and stuff. And also, way better picture than the past U.S. releases, because the past ones did not have a great picture. If you haven't seen these movies, it's basically, though, really crazy, sadomasochistic kind of hell kind of type characters, and they kind of get released from this kind of cube. And at the beginning of the movie, you see this guy who's found this cube and ends up letting them out and getting himself trapped in hell. And the family ends up, the brother and the girlfriend end up moving back in to this house where the one guy has gone missing, where they were the one's daughter as well. They come back in there, and then of course they kind of discover that there's something in this weird in this house. They're kind of messing around with this with the Cenobites. These are exceptionally creepy movies. Like, these movies are ultimately what you would call a bad dream. Like, when you talk about seeing things like that really like freak you out, bad dream wise, you get that with these Hellraiser movies. And also has the second film in here, and here's the artwork on the second film, which is basically you can't really talk about too much for the second one without sort of ruining the first movie, because they all kind of continue on. But here's a look at the artwork for the second movie. The third movie, too, has never been released uncut in the U.S. I think there's like some kind of a release, but never an uncut Blu-ray in the U.S. of that one. But really great movies. And the third one, like I said, Hellraiser, Hell on Earth. The third one, the artwork on this one, and the original cover for that one. Did I show that one first? I don't know if I showed that one before or not when I was holding them up. I'm not sure. I hope it would be kind of stupid if I was holding up the wrong one. But they all have on here brand new features on this. This is also, like I said, the uncut edition of that. But this is seriously, if you're a fan of these movies, and if you can play Region B, have a Region Free player, or can play Region B and you're in the UK, definitely pick these up. Arrow does an amazing job on these releases, and such a cool set on these with great features. There's also a limited edition set of this that came out a month or two back that went out of print. But just the whole look of this has this really cool look. I love this look on this. The next one is another one that I had not seen in years. The Dario Argento film Deep Red. This is another one that has a great cover on this. And it has on here too, this is the limited edition one. I don't know how many copies of this there is. I think it was, unless I'm totally wrong, I believe there was like 3,000 copies of this one. I'm pretty sure about that, unless I'm totally wrong about that. But it has in here a poster for the movie, like a deep red poster. You can see one of the original classic posters. It's actually double-sided. With that image too, I always remember that one. And then it also has in here a booklet about the movie, some pictures and things like that from it. But this movie, though, some cool stuff in this movie. The movie's basically, though, about this one woman who's like a psychic who ends up, you hear her getting killed. It's like a concert pianist who is basically outside drinking with his friend at this bar. He ends up hearing this woman scream, and she's actually in his building where he lives, and then he ends up running up in there and sees the woman getting killed. And then he kind of, when he's in there running into the apartment, sees the woman, he sees this picture, and then when he's leaving, he sees the picture is gone. And it's kind of this weird thing. He kind of becomes obsessed about this murder and kind of figuring out who it was that killed this woman and what happened to this picture. So he's kind of going around and trying to kind of investigate it and figure it out, and kind of talking to people she knew, and kind of trying to figure out everything he can. There's something about this movie, that I can't tell you how much I love, especially like the weird aspect to the background actors in this. Like there's certain scenes, like when they kind of, Dario Argento was like posing people in these weird ways in this movie, like when they were at the bar, you saw people kind of staying totally still like a painting. And it was like a couple of different times, it looks like that classic painting of the bar. And there was a couple other times in the movie too, he did the same thing when he kind of posed these people dead still, just sort of standing there like modeling. It was really weird. And that's the thing I really loved about this movie, was these weird stuff going on in the background with the extras and stuff like that. But it has on here the export cut, the limited edition exclusive. So the limited exclusive has the export cut, and these are both 4K transfers on these. Brand new introductions on this movie by Claudio Clemente from Goblin. A number of different features on this movie, but a great addition. And another one from Arrow. This one is a U.S. release, but this is region A and B. But this one, if you in the U.S., is an Arrow U.S. release. This is What Have You Done to Silence? This is a weird giallo film, which is one. I think I saw this one years back. It stars, Camille Keaton from I Spit on Your Grave is in this movie. A little look inside at this. Really cool movie. It starts in the beginning of this movie with this girl who's with her teacher, and they're kind of, making out on this boat, and then she ends up like seeing some woman getting killed, and she believes she saw something happen. The boyfriend, thought he heard something, and then of course this one girl ended up actually getting killed, and then the cops are kind of trying to investigate it, and the boyfriend doesn't really want to say anything and talk too much about what had happened because he was with his student, and it's kind of like she's pretty young, and it's kind of like he'd go to jail if it kind of came out about this. So he's kind of keeping it quiet, even though they did see something and maybe they could help the police. And of course, there's stuff happening to all the girls at this Catholic school. I think it was a Catholic school. It was like it was a Catholic college, and it was like this whole thing going on about trying to investigate him, and also kind of looking at the who is it? It's one of those kind of whodunit kind of movies too, kind of figuring out who is the killer and what is happening. And is it the priest there? Is it, it's a whole bunch of stuff in this. But like I said, a brand new transfer on this one, new commentary track, a bunch of new features on here. But a really cool, like I said, another one that I had not seen in years. The next one, this is another UK release. This is one. This is a movie that I love so much. It's such a strange movie, and I've been wanting to see this on Blu-ray for years, because there was like a release in Germany, and everyone said the picture wasn't great on this, but this one has a brand new transfer. This is from Soda Pictures, and this is a movie called The Reflecting Skin, and a really cool, steelbook of this movie. This movie is so amazing and so weird and so my kind of movie. The movie's so basically about, and trying to explain it too, to the details of this movie. There's a making of this movie too, talking about this. Like the director painted this field to give it this wheat field, and the movie's kind of set has this vibe to it, which feels almost like otherworldly, almost like it's almost kind of like Truman Show, or like the kind of vibe where it's like this. It's like stuck down here in the middle of America. And it's set in this kind of world where there's nothing else outside of this world. Like it's kind of like, what else is out of here? It's like it has that kind of vibe to it. But it's this kid who has these two friends, and his brother is away at war, and then there's this one woman who's like next door, and he becomes kind of obsessed and believes that she's a vampire, and it's all these kind of things in this kid's mind. It's like you don't know if he's imagining it. At the same time, too, there's these kind of greaser boys going around this car, and they're kind of like kidnapping people. It's you see this taking kids into their car. It's a very, very creepy, surreal, weird movie. And the music in this is amazing. They even talk about this one scene with the kid and the son, like screaming, like they were. I don't know. It's such a strange, like amazing movie that is really, really tough to explain, but I would highly recommend you guys watch this movie. Look at the trailer for this movie. Also check out the music for this movie. And like I said, too, I thought it was so cool that they put a making of on this. They also talked to Viggo Mortensen about it. And the next one from Anchor Bay, and this is a movie, too, that got a lot of mixed opinions. I really like this. It was actually one of my favorite Bradley Cooper movies I've seen, and it's Bradley Cooper in the movie called Burnt. It's pretty much, he's a chef who, at the beginning of the movie, he kind of had all these kind of things go wrong for him. He became really an alcoholic and had drug issues and all that kind of stuff, and basically lost his job, and like everything that went right was going good, and then it fell apart for him. This is him trying to pick himself back up. He's back in Paris and he really wants to open up a new restaurant because he had 2 Michelin stars. He wants to get the 3rd one, so he's trying to open up his new restaurant. But he convinces his old friend to allow him to be the chef in his restaurant and take it over. And he kind of puts together a team and stuff like that to work there. And he wants this to basically be, the best that he can. And it's pretty much about him trying to, bring himself back up and try and get his life back in order again and try and get back to where he once was. And that's essentially what it is. And it's, the kind of situations that he goes through about trying to remain sober and trying to keep his life on track and trying to stay focused on it. I don't know. I really like this movie. I thought that it was really well done, well acted. Like I said, I don't understand some of the negativity that I've seen review-wise for this. It has on here a commentary track, deleted scenes, and a Q&A, but I would recommend you guys check this out. The next one from Image is the new, anthology film, All Hallows Eve. This one isn't the same as the first movie. The first movie, in some ways, it doesn't have the clown character from the first movie. The clown character from the first movie was so creepy, and they actually, I believe, it's like they've just filmed a new spin-off movie of that with that character. I think it's going to be the character in the whole movie. But this one is called All Hallows Eve 2, and it's basically an anthology movie about this girl who's a babysitter who ends up getting this VHS tape dropped off at her house, and she's going, picks it up and goes to watch it. It's kind of her watching it, and you see this kind of character wearing this weird kind of, Halloween kind of pumpkin type mask, and you see him kind of like, with a knife and things like that, and you see like he kind of cuts between the clips and the shorts that they watch. And, the one short was really cool with this, like, carving this pumpkin and then cooking up the pumpkin seeds, and the kid eats them, and then the pumpkin starts growing out of his stomach. That was a really, really cool segment. A number of different segments in this one, but that to me was like the one that really stood out the most, was like the coolest one. But like I said, it's basically an anthology movie, watching a bunch of different segments, a bunch of different directors. The Condillac brothers, who were, I worked with on the Divine Tragedies, they had a segment in this movie. A bunch of different, horror actors and things like that have popped up in this. Bill Oberst Jr. was in this. Number of different people. But really pretty cool anthology one. Like I said, it's not the same as the first one, though, because it's not this, like the clown kind of popping in and the creepy. Like I said, that clown was really creepy. But it's like I said, it's the same vibe kind of movie about watching the tape. This one, like I said, is the All Hallows Eve 2. The next one from Tempe Digital, and I'll put the link where you guys can check, pick this one up if you guys are interested. It's J.R. Bookwater's film, and he's released this one himself, a brand new limited edition release on Blu-ray of the film, The Dead Next Door, which he directed. And this movie came out years back on DVD from Anchor Bay. It's a really cool zombie movie, and it's kind of interesting too. Like, they have 2 tracks in this movie. You can hear the original guy's voice, and like the whole movie had a lot of stuff having to be redubbed and stuff like that because the audio was messed up when they did it. So they had people like Bruce Campbell, kind of, from the Evil Dead films, and Sam Raimi, who was actually one of the producers of this movie under an uncredited name, came in and like kind of filled in the voices and stuff like that. So Bruce Campbell actually plays the title character's voice in this movie. But it's basically about a zombie outbreak in the beginning of the movie. Then it's years later about a group of people who go around kind of killing the zombies. But then there's also this group of people who kind of like worship the zombies and kind of like have their religion and things like that around the zombies and kind of want to keep them alive and keep a whole captivity of all these zombies. So really, really cool. It was shot, I believe it was shot on 8mm, I think it was shot. Yeah, it was all shot on Super 8mm. So it has but it really looks good because it's brand new, 2K transfers of both of the film, and it also has on here tons of features. It has a thing with J.R. Brookwater talking about restoring this movie, talking about how they restored the original release from Anchor Bay, how they went back now and did it all in 2K, and how they had to have all these things they had to do to put it all together. It has on here the original VHS version, a bunch of podcasts about the making of the movie, a bunch of deleted scenes, outtakes, tons and tons and tons of different stuff on this release. A great release on here. Has on here too, like I said, it's 2 discs, a booklet about the movie, reversible artwork as well. But definitely check this out if you guys are interested in this. This is sold, as I said, exclusively through the director. The next one, and this is one I was really interested in seeing this one. This is from Cinema Epoch releasing. And I really wanted to see this because Ruby LaRocca was one of the directors of this, and I worked with her on the movie President's Day and Zombie Babies. She was also in Witch's Brew. So I really wanted to see this movie. This has, Nicole Fiore, who I was in the movie Mr. Bricks with, a bunch of different people in this movie. Desiree Socha, and so I really wanted to watch this movie. She was in Zion Babies as well. And the movie's basically, though, and Asta, who's from, the Return to Nukem High films is in this, and she was a star. Really, really, she was really good in this. Definitely, stole the show in this film to me, I thought. And the movie's basically, though, it kind of has like a vibe of like the movie May mixed with like necromantic a little bit, mixed with like I really like that. Well, I guess that's what I would say. Like that's the kind of mix the movie has. It's basically about this woman. Beginning of the movie, you see her killing Nicole Fiore, who plays her girlfriend in the movie, and she's kind of going around and kind of meeting all these different women. She's kind of like killing them and then keeping their bodies in her house. It also has a bit of like the Maniac remake feel to it a little bit. She's kind of keeping the bodies in her house. It's in there. She's like seeing them coming alive and like talking to her and things like that. And she basically, though, meets Asta Paradis's character, and she basically meets her character and kind of starts to have a relationship with her, and it's kind of like, is she going to kill this woman? Is it going to become the same thing with her that she's done with all these other people? And she's really sort of strange to everyone the way she works, and she actually works in the business of doing special effects in horror movies. I don't know, I really like this movie. It has on here, too, a black and white version, so it's like you can see the movie in like the way the directors wanted to look in the black and white edition, and deleted scenes in a trailer on this. The next one from Freestyle Digital Media. This is a new animated film. It was a clay animated or stop motion animated film, and it was actually pretty cool. Like I really actually watched this and really thought this was good. Nick Swartzen does the voice in this. Mila Kunis, Bob Odenkirk, T.J. Miller, Danny McBride. It's basically about these guys who work at this carnival in the beginning of the movie. The carnival is kind of in hard times, and the thing that was cool about this movie too is the stylized. It was very, really well stylized film with some really cool looks to everything. Kind of has a vibe a little bit like Monkey Bone a little bit, and then it has like a vibe of like the South Park movie too when they go to hell. But these guys, beginning of the movie, the carnival is all messed up that they're at, and they end up going to see the fortune teller, and they end up taking this book she has. It's like this devil satanic book, and the one guy kind of like says a thing on the book, and then the book basically he cuts his finger and the blood gets on the book, and then he gets sucked to hell, and then the friend ends up going after him to try and find him. The friends go after him. Of course, they get sucked down to hell. They're down in hell, and they're trying to figure out how they're going to get out of hell and find the friend. And they also go around with this demon, played by Mila Kunis, to try and find the friend. And the devil in it is definitely kind of played like the devil in the South Park movie a little bit. Like I said, it's got that South Park movie kind of vibe to it. And I don't know, I like this. It's also R-rated, so it's like a really dirty, mean-spirited kind of like movie. And like you don't really see too many like clay animated or stop-motion movies that are rated R. They're usually PG or G. So this is like kind of, it was a risk too, I think, to make a movie because I'm sure it would have taken a long time to make this, to actually make one that was rated R. So it was definitely risky to do something like this. But I thought it paid off because to me, I like these kind of like dirty, kind of mean-spirited movies, and this really was that. The next one from Sony is A Brilliant Young Mind. It's basically about this kid who is super, super smart. He's like a math prodigy, and he can't really relate to people in life. He doesn't really have luck with friends. He kind of has all these kind of idiosyncrasies and all these kind of issues and things like that. He ends up getting trained by this math professor who's like kind of training him. He's training him for a thing called some kind of a prestigious kind of math, the Olympiad thing, where he's kind of training him to try and get into this thing, and he ends up getting into the Olympiad thing. It's him going to another country to, I believe it was in Asia, to go there to kind of train and to go and compete in this thing. And it's kind of him and all these other kids that are super smart. Him kind of going there with all these kids, and it's kind of opens him up to kind of talking to other people and him meeting other people that are kind of like him, and that's essentially what the movie was. It's a really well made movie. The one kid too is from that movie, I think Ender's Game, and he was a couple other things, but I know him specifically from Ender's Game. The next one from Sony as well, and this is the Lizzie Borden Chronicles, and I don't think there's going to be a second season of this show as far as I've heard. This was the spin-off series to the Lizzie Borden movie that they did, which I really like that Lizzie Borden movie. This is kind of a fictionalized kind of account of what they think. I believe it was fictionalized. Yeah, it's pretty much kind of taking the actual Lizzie Borden character, played by Christina Ricci, the real person, and kind of fictionalizing her life of what she did when she kind of tries to start over after getting away with basically murdering her parents, and she's kind of going to New York, and the sister comes along. The sister's played by Clea Duvall, and it's kind of about her, trying to kind of stay under the radar, and people kind of looking around at her like it's, because it was a huge news story about her killing the parents and kind of getting away with it and finding a way out of it, even though pretty much everyone knew she did it, but then they couldn't believe that a woman would actually have committed this crime back then. I like this. I think this is a very well-made series. It has on here, though, 8 episodes. It has on here deleted scenes and a gag reel. But if you're a fan of the Lizzie Borden movie that they did for Lifetime, definitely check this one out. And I like this too because I'm a really big fan of Clea Duvall and always loved Christina Ricci. So definitely check this out. The next one from E1. I believe this was a TV series, and it's dubbed over in English. But it was a German TV series, I think, and it's called Pinocchio. And this is a new one. It was an interesting kind of take on Pinocchio. And I don't know why they did the Pinocchio character the way they did, though, because they did it all in like a CGI kind of thing. But it's the classic story, though, of Pinocchio. And this one, though, had like a different thing, and I don't remember unless I haven't seen the original, the animated Disney one in a long time. But this one, though, the wood of Pinocchio kind of like bounced his way to Geppetto's house. And if you know the story, though, it's basically, he carves this, toy carver carves Pinocchio, and Pinocchio ends up coming to life, and it's his goal to, dream to become a real boy. And it's kind of the situations and the mischief and things like that he gets into along the way. And this one, too, it's like a cricket. It's like a cricket kind of bug, but not the same. And it's a girl kind of cricket kind of bug that like lived inside the wood of that he carved the Pinocchio out of, that kind of is like talking to Pinocchio. I don't know. I thought it was okay. I mean, it was kind of. I always like to see the real life Pinocchio ones. There was that one. I think it was Jonathan Terrell Thomas. Then there was the other one they made as well. That was I believe, a French film. But I think it's worth checking out. And the next one from E1 as well is Lost in the Sun, starring Josh Duhamel. It's basically, he's this guy who's this criminal, and he ends up, this one kid who was, parents recently had died. He's an orphan. He's getting ready to be put on this bus to be sent to his grandmother's house. They're basically sending him because he has no other family around. Josh Duhamel ends up seeing this kid and ends up kind of convincing him that he's got a call from the grandmother, and the grandmother wants him to take him to the to her house. And he's basically, though, this criminal who's going around robbing people because he owes all this money to these kind of loan shark kind of guys. And he convinces this kid to end up coming along with him. Of course, though, he's kind of using this kid to help him for his robbery. So he's they're going around stealing things, and he keeps on saying to the kid, we've just this next job. We got to do this job. Then I'll get you to your grandmother's house. Don't worry, we're going to get there, but we just got to do this first. You got to help me with this. And he kind of convinces him that he needs, because they have no money, and if he doesn't have any money, how's this kid going to get there? So he's like, we need to help me get this money so we have the money to get you back there, and you have to help me out because I have to do these people and all these people the money. So that's pretty much what it is, and it's kind of them, in a way, though, becoming kind of friends, and kind of like he's kind of enjoying going around with him on these kind of spree of robberies and stuff like that. I like this movie. This was a really pretty well-made movie. It was kind of sad, too, some of the stuff, because it was like him kind of putting his kid through all this kind of stuff. But I would check this out. I really like this movie, and has a kind of sad, too, when you find certain things out about the guy, and his reasons and stuff. The next one from E1 as well, E1, yes, this is E1 as well, and this is The Crying Wolf. And this is an interesting movie. It's basically about a group of, werewolves, like a pack of werewolves who are going on a vacation. And that's what it is. They're going, to this, British town on vacation. It's kind of funny, because it's you never think of a movie when it's a bunch of werewolves, and it's kind of like a comedy. It's sort of silly with them going on this thing, and it kind of cuts back and forth to flashbacks to the werewolves that are killing these people, and the kind of people that they've killed, and these kind of weird encounters that they've had. And then it's kind of them going to this town, and then the town is kind of looking at them funny, and it's kind of the weird stuff that happens in the town and what's going to happen to these werewolves and things like that. That's essentially what it is. It's just a strange, going to this small town on vacation, the werewolves and the weird stuff that happens to them. It has on here a making of videos, deleted scenes, and a music video, but it's it kind of has detectives and hunters kind of coming after them and all these kind of weird stuff. But I like it because it's kind of weird and unexpected movie. The next one is a found footage movie in Australia. I don't think there's really been many Australian found footage movies. And I actually like this movie. It doesn't Not a whole lot happens in some of this. It's kind of like wondering what's going on some of the time, but to me it was kind of funny, and it was kind of weird too. Like there's a it came across almost real in certain scenes. Like there's like, this real, I know it wasn't, but it just sort of felt like, especially because like they were these two kind of like backwoods kind of Australian, like in the bush kind of characters going around, and the one guy's filming everything that they do. And there's one scene where they get in this argument with these people it's kind of, I don't even know what this was. There's like a pool in the middle of a park that looked like it might have been a hot tub. It's definitely some Australian kind of thing that we don't have in here. Because like, I've never seen anything like it in my life. But they go there, and then the one guy wants to like put his dog in there, and the guy's like, "You better not put your dog in there." He's like screaming at him like, "Oh, crocodiles, we'll put the fucking dog in there." It's like he's like getting real pissed at him, going, "Don't put the dog in there." And it's a huge to do, and it felt real, but I know it wasn't. And then the guys go to this bar and try and pick up these women. Then the women end up coming with them around the car, and they're like driving out in the middle of nowhere, and they, hear about this kind of legend of this creature out there. And of course they get out there, and then they find this dead body, and then the girls are trying to blaming them because the guys went off at one point thinking they did something. And that's essentially what you can say. And like I said, not a whole lot happens like scary-wise, really, but it's kind of like just this strange found footage movie with these guys out there and like what they're doing. I liked it. I mean, I liked it because it was weird. And the next one from Midnight Releasing is called Silent Retreat, and a cool cover on this one. There was a movie called Silent Retreat that came out before, the girls with that weird kind of camp kind of thing. This one is basically about a group of these people who are coming together for a kind of like a job, kind of like it's people all that work together, and they're all going out into this kind of cabin to get together and kind of have like a meetup and kind of talk about work and all that kind of stuff. And it's all in this cabin. And of course, they did in this cabin that used to be housed on this weird kind of like a sane asylum for crazy people where they did all these weird experiments on people and stuff like that. And then the people get there to this place. The one girl ends up going off running, ends up going missing, and they don't know where she is. And everybody at this kind of cabin is trying to figure out where she is. And then all kinds of weird stuff started to happen in this place. Like they're seeing things and hearing things, and all these kind of stuff is like, is this woman been killed? Where is she? And then it's kind of all this kind of odd stuff going on with the doctor. And the one doctor he was in some movie. He was in like, I can't remember what he was in. He was in something I was like, he was in that one movie called Memorial Valley Massacre. He was like one of the main characters in that movie. He's been in a lot of stuff, though. When I looked that up and saw that he was in that, though, I like kind of like obsessed. Like, that was the guy from Memorial Valley Massacre. I don't know. I kind of like this movie. Not too much. Like, it wasn't like amazing or anything like that. But it has on here interviews, trailers, audio commentary, the cast and the producer. Anyway, though, guys, that's all for this, new Blu-ray DVD update. Sorry, sometimes these videos are longer than others. Sometimes there are a lot of stuff to cover in them. But anyway, though, guys, thanks again for watching and subscribing, and I'll see you guys later. Bye.